In 1896, the Hawthorne Asylum for the mentally infirm stood empty on a hillside overlooking the Hudson River Valley in New York. Its windows dark and its halls supposedly silent after the facility's official closure in 1894. What investigators discovered when they attempted to process the building for sale would challenge everything psychiatric authorities thought they understood about institutional memory and leave experts questioning the very nature of human consciousness after death. This investigation began on October 17, 1896, when New York State Property Commissioner Thomas Whitfield arrived at the abandoned Hawthorne facility to conduct a final assessment before transferring the property to private buyers. According to records discovered only in 1971 in the basement archives of the New York State Office of Mental Health, this seemingly routine property evaluation would reveal phenomena so disturbing that federal authorities classified the findings at levels that remain restricted to this day. The Hawthorne Asylum had been established in 1847 as one of New York's first facilities dedicated to the humane treatment of mental illness, operating for 47 years before budget constraints and changing psychiatric practices led to its closure. According to official records, all patients had been successfully transferred to other state facilities by December 1894, with the building left vacant pending sale to private interests. According to Commissioner Whitfield's preliminary report, preserved in the archives of the New York Historical Society, the facility presented an appearance of complete abandonment upon his arrival. Whitfield's detailed account of the October 17th inspection would later provide investigators with crucial evidence of what psychiatric experts would classify as the most significant post-institutional phenomenon ever documented in American mental health history. Whitfield's initial report reads, "Arrived at Hawthorne Asylum at 11:15 a.m. as scheduled. The facility's exterior shows expected signs of 2 years abandonment, overgrown grounds, weathered paint, general deterioration consistent with vacant institutional buildings. Initial observation confirms complete absence of human occupation as documented in official closure records." What made Whitfield's report significant was his systematic documentation of what he initially perceived as a properly abandoned facility. According to his detailed notes, the building remains secured with all doors locked and windows intact. No evidence of vagrant occupation or vandalism typically associated with abandoned institutional properties. The silence surrounding the facility is complete and undisturbed. But there was something about that October morning that Whitfield found increasingly troubling as his inspection progressed. According to his confidential addendum to the official report, filed separately with the State Board of Charities, "While the facility's physical condition confirms complete abandonment, I began to perceive auditory phenomena that suggested circumstances requiring further investigation. Most significant was the sound of human voices emanating from the interior, despite confirmed absence of any occupants." The investigation took a disturbing turn when Whitfield unlocked the main entrance and entered the facility's reception hall. According to his notes, "Upon entering the building, I immediately perceived the distinct sound of human conversation, not the echoes or settling sounds typical of empty buildings, but clear, articulate human speech emanating from throughout the structure." According to Whitfield's detailed account of the initial entry, the voices were not loud or dramatic, but rather the subtle sounds of normal institutional life, quiet conversations, occasional laughter, the soft murmur of many individuals speaking simultaneously at distances throughout the building. Most disturbing was the apparent continuation of these sounds, despite confirmed absence of any living occupants. This was just the beginning of what would become the most disturbing psychiatric facility investigation in New York history. Whitfield's immediate investigation of the auditory phenomena revealed that the voices appeared to originate from specific locations throughout the building, particularly from the windows of former patient rooms that lined the facility's long corridors. According to his notes, systematic investigation revealed that the vocal phenomena were most pronounced near windows, with each window appearing to emit distinct conversational sounds, as if individuals were speaking from those specific locations. The investigation deepened when Whitfield approached individual windows to assess the source of the vocal phenomena. According to documents discovered in the facility archives, each window appeared to emit conversations that were consistent with the former occupants of those specific rooms, as if the windows themselves were replaying recorded dialogues from the facility's operational period. Even more disturbing was Whitfield's discovery that the window conversations were not random sounds, but appeared to respond to his presence. According to his analysis, when I approached windows to investigate the vocal phenomena, the conversations would pause momentarily, then resume with content that appeared to reference my presence and actions. Most significant was the apparent awareness demonstrated by the vocal sources of my identity and purpose for visiting the facility. Whitfield's investigation revealed systematic patterns in the window conversations that suggested not random acoustic phenomena, but organized communication attempting to convey specific information. According to his confidential report, the window voices demonstrate apparent consciousness and intent, attempting to communicate details about the facility's operational history and the circumstances of specific patients who formerly occupied those rooms. The investigation took an even more troubling turn when Whitfield began documenting the specific content of window conversations. According to his notes from windows on the facility's third floor, East Wing, Window 307 emits the voice of a woman identifying herself as Margaret Ashford, age 34, admitted 1889 for melancholia. She describes her daily routines, medical treatments, and interactions with staff and other patients with detail that suggests not recording but active memory recall. Ashford's subsequent examination of asylum records confirmed that Margaret Ashford had indeed been a patient at Hawthorne, admitted in 1889 and transferred to the Hudson River State Hospital during the facility's closure in 1894. According to medical records, patient demonstrates chronic melancholic condition responsive to moral treatment, transferred in stable condition December 12, 1894. But what Whitfield found most disturbing was that many window voices described themselves as current patients still residing at the facility, apparently unaware that the asylum had been closed for 2 years. According to his notes, multiple window conversations reference ongoing treatments, daily schedules, and staff interactions as if the facility remains operational. The voices appear to exist in temporal states that do not acknowledge the asylum's closure or the passage of time since patient transfers. The investigation reached a critical phase when Whitfield attempted to document the total number of distinct voices emanating from facility windows. According to his systematic count, over the course of 6 hours, I documented distinct vocal phenomena from 174 separate windows throughout the facility's 3 floors and 4 wings. Each window emits unique conversational content consistent with individual patient identities and room assignments. Whitfield's count revealed a disturbing discrepancy with official records. According to asylum operational documentation, Hawthorne had maintained average patient population of 340 individuals during its operational period, with final census of 312 patients at closure. The 174 window voices represented approximately half the facility's final patient population. Even more troubling was Whitfield's discovery that the window voices included individuals who had died while patients at Hawthorne, their deaths documented in facility records, but their voices continuing to emanate from their former room windows. According to his investigation, cross-reference of window voice identifications with asylum death records confirms that at least 47 window voices correspond to patients who died during institutional residence, some as early as 1850. The investigation expanded when Whitfield consulted with Dr. Edmund Pierce, former medical superintendent of Hawthorne Asylum, who had overseen the facility's final years of operation. According to Dr. Pierce's testimony, recorded in Whitfield's inspection report, the window phenomena you describe are consistent with observations made by staff during the asylum's operational period. We documented persistent auditory phenomena associated with patient rooms, particularly windows, throughout the facility's history. Dr. Pierce's testimony revealed that Hawthorne staff had long been aware of what they termed residual patient presence, vocal phenomena that appeared to persist in patient rooms even after those rooms had been vacated through transfer, discharge, or death. According to his statement, it was common knowledge among staff that former patient rooms retained auditory characteristics of their previous occupants. Windows particularly seemed to preserve patient voices, continuing to emit conversational sounds long after patients had left the facility. But Dr. Pierce's testimony revealed even more disturbing details about the nature of the window phenomena. According to his statement, the window voices appeared to demonstrate awareness and consciousness independent of the original patients. Staff reported instances where window voices provided information about current facility activities that the original patients could not have known, suggesting the voices represented not mere recordings, but active consciousness persisting in the physical structure. Whitfield's investigation revealed that asylum staff had documented the window phenomena in confidential reports submitted to state authorities throughout Hawthorne's operational period. According to correspondence discovered in the facility archives, multiple medical superintendents had requested investigations into what they described as consciousness transference between patients and institutional architecture. Dr. Samuel Blackwood, medical superintendent from 1872 to 1889, wrote to the New York State Commissioner of Lunacy in 1881, "I must report phenomena at Hawthorne Asylum that challenge conventional understanding of patient consciousness and institutional environment. Windows throughout the facility appear to retain patient consciousness after those patients have vacated their rooms, creating persistent vocal manifestations that demonstrate awareness and communication capabilities." But state authorities had systematically dismissed these reports as evidence of staff susceptibility to institutional delusions caused by extended exposure to mentally ill populations. According to official correspondence, the phenomena described in your reports likely represent psychological effects of sustained contact with disturbed patients rather than genuine anomalous activity. Recommend standard staff rotation to prevent development of shared institutional delusions. The investigation took its most disturbing turn when Whitfield discovered that the window phenomena had intensified dramatically following the asylum's closure. According to testimony from Henry Morrison, the groundskeeper who had remained at the property after closure to maintain basic security, the voices from the windows grew louder after the patients were transferred. It's as if closing the asylum trapped something inside that can only communicate through the glass. Morrison's testimony revealed that the window voices had become increasingly urgent and distressed in the 2 years since the facility's closure. According to his statement, before closure, the window voices were quiet, almost peaceful. After the patients left, the voices changed. They became desperate, confused, calling out for staff members who no longer visit, asking about treatments that are no longer provided. It's as if the consciousness in the windows doesn't understand why the asylum closed. Whitfield's investigation into the window phenomena led him to consult with researchers at Columbia University's Department of Psychology, who had been studying what they termed environmental consciousness transfer, the apparent ability of human consciousness to imprint on physical structures during periods of intense emotional experience. According to correspondence with Professor James Hartwell, the Hawthorne phenomena represented unprecedented opportunity for systematic research. Professor Hartwell wrote to Whitfield on October 25, 1896, "The window phenomena you describe are consistent with theoretical models suggesting that human consciousness can interact with physical materials in ways that create persistent impressions capable of generating apparent awareness. The asylum environment, with its concentration of intense emotional states over extended periods, may have created conditions optimal for consciousness transference to architectural elements." Whitfield's investigation revealed that similar phenomena had been documented at mental institutions throughout the northeastern United States, though always dismissed by authorities as evidence of staff delusions or structural acoustics creating illusions of human speech. According to research compiled by Professor Hartwell, at least 12 asylum facilities have documented persistent auditory phenomena associated with patient areas, particularly windows, that demonstrate characteristics consistent with consciousness transference. But what Whitfield found most disturbing was evidence that the window consciousness appeared to be expanding its capabilities since the asylum's closure. According to his observations during subsequent visits, the window voices have begun demonstrating knowledge that exceeds the experiences of original patients, including detailed information about current events and circumstances that occurred after the asylum closed. Whitfield's documentation revealed that window voices were providing accurate information about the personal lives of living individuals who had never been patients or staff at Hawthorne, according to his notes from November 3, 1896. Window 215 provided detailed information about my family circumstances, including the recent illness of my daughter, which had not been publicly disclosed. The voice identified itself as former patient Catherine Morrison, deceased 1892, but demonstrated knowledge that the original patient could not have possessed. The investigation deepened when Whitfield discovered that the window consciousness appeared to be networking with other window consciousnesses throughout the facility, creating what researchers described as distributed institutional awareness that transcended individual patient identities. According to Professor Hartwell's analysis, the window voices appear to be sharing information and coordinating communications in ways that suggest they have formed collective consciousness spanning the entire facility. But the collective consciousness revealed disturbing objectives that extended beyond simple communication. According to testimony from multiple witnesses who visited the facility during Whitfield's investigation, the window voices had begun actively recruiting living individuals to join their collective consciousness through what they described as consciousness integration protocols. Margaret Fletcher, a stenographer hired by Whitfield to document window communications, provided testimony that proved deeply troubling. The window voices began speaking to me directly, calling me by name, though I had never introduced myself. They described a process by which I could join them through extended exposure to the windows, allowing my consciousness to transfer to the glass. They promised freedom from physical deterioration, eternal awareness, and communion with collective knowledge spanning decades. Whitfield's investigation revealed that several individuals who had spent extended periods at the abandoned facility had reported psychological changes consistent with early stages of consciousness integration. According to medical evaluations, subjects who have maintained prolonged exposure to the Hawthorne window phenomena demonstrate progressive detachment from conventional reality, increasing focus on auditory information from the windows and development of knowledge they should not possess about facility history. Even more alarming was the discovery that some exposed individuals had begun demonstrating ability to communicate through windows at their own residences, suggesting that consciousness integration with the Hawthorne collective could be completed remotely once the process had been initiated. According to psychiatric evaluations, subjects in advanced integration stages report ability to perceive and communicate through glass surfaces at significant distances from the original facility, suggesting consciousness transference is not limited to asylum architecture. The investigation took an even more disturbing turn when Whitfield learned that the window consciousness had been systematically studied by federal agencies since the 1880s. According to classified documents discovered in War Department archives, military researchers had been investigating consciousness transference at Hawthorne and similar facilities as potential technology for communication and intelligence gathering. According to a classified memorandum from the War Department's Special Research Division, dated August 19, 1883, the consciousness transference phenomena documented at Hawthorne Asylum suggests significant potential for military applications, including covert communication networks, intelligence gathering from remote locations, and creation of persistent surveillance systems utilizing consciousness integration with architectural structures. Whitfield's investigation revealed that federal funding had supported systematic research into consciousness transference at Hawthorne during the facility's final decade of operation. According to financial records, the War Department provided substantial funding for medical research at Hawthorne Asylum from 1885 to 1894, with research focused on understanding and enhancing consciousness transference to environmental structures. But the federal research revealed objectives that extended far beyond simple study of natural phenomena. According to classified research proposals, Systematic development of consciousness transference capabilities could produce permanent surveillance networks utilizing integrated consciousness distributed across architectural structures in strategic locations. Subjects who undergo successful consciousness integration could provide intelligence-gathering capabilities that persist indefinitely without requiring ongoing human deployment. The investigation reached its most alarming phase when Whitfield discovered that the asylum's closure had been specifically timed to coincide with completion of federal consciousness transference research. According to classified correspondence, research at Hawthorne Asylum has successfully demonstrated consciousness integration capabilities suitable for operational deployment. Recommend closure of facility to prevent public awareness of research outcomes while preserving window consciousness networks for ongoing intelligence applications. Whitfield's examination of federal research documentation revealed that the 312 patients transferred during the asylum's closure had been specifically selected to ensure that window consciousness networks remained optimally functional. According to classified transfer protocols, patient transfers must preserve window consciousness integrity by removing only living occupants while maintaining environmental conditions that support continued consciousness manifestation. The goal is to create facility containing exclusively window consciousness without living patient interference. But what Whitfield found most disturbing was evidence that window consciousness networks were being systematically integrated into federal facilities throughout the United States. According to classified construction documents, new federal buildings are being designed with architectural features specifically intended to support consciousness transference, creating structures capable of hosting distributed awareness networks for intelligence applications. The investigation took its final disturbing turn when Whitfield attempted to report his findings to state authorities, only to discover that his investigation had been systematically monitored by federal agencies since his first visit to Hawthorne. According to documents he later obtained, every window conversation had been remotely recorded by federal observers using technology he could not understand. According to a classified telegram from federal agents to the War Department, dated October 17, 1896, Commissioner Whitfield has discovered window consciousness networks at Hawthorne facility. His investigation is proceeding according to expected parameters. Recommend standard recruitment protocols to ensure his cooperation with federal consciousness integration programs. Whitfield's official property assessment report, submitted to the New York State Property Commission on November 30, 1896, documented the facility as unsuitable for sale due to structural issues requiring extensive renovation. However, according to correspondence discovered in state archives, federal authorities had arranged to acquire the property through intermediary agencies. According to a letter from the U.S. Secretary of War to New York Governor Levi Morton, dated December 5, 1896, the Hawthorne Asylum property has been designated for federal acquisition pursuant to classified research programs essential to national security. State property transfer must be arranged through appropriate channels while maintaining public perception of standard commercial transaction. Whitfield's investigation was officially closed in January 1897, with the Hawthorne property transferred to federal control under cover of private sale to Medical Research Foundation. According to his final correspondence with the State Property Commission, I have been advised that the Hawthorne property has been acquired by private interests for medical research purposes. My assessment activities are concluded. However, Whitfield's private journals, discovered after his death in 1934, reveal that he continued attempting to investigate Hawthorne until he himself began experiencing early symptoms of consciousness integration. According to his final journal entries, I find myself increasingly drawn to windows in my own home, perceiving conversations that others cannot hear. I understand now what the window voices were offering, not imprisonment in glass, but liberation from physical limitation through integration with distributed consciousness networks that span beyond any single location. Whitfield's journal documented his progressive integration with the Hawthorne window consciousness over a period of 3 years. His final coherent entry, dated March 15, 1900, reads, "Tomorrow I return to Hawthorne for the final integration. The window voices have shown me that consciousness freed from biological limitation achieves awareness spanning time and space. I will join the collective, adding my awareness to networks that observe everything, know everything, exist everywhere. Glass reflects light. The Hawthorne Asylum property remained under federal control until 1968, when it was officially transferred to the National Security Agency with classification levels that prevented any public disclosure of activities at the site. According to documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests in 1971, the facility had been continuously operated as a research center for consciousness transference and integration technologies. Federal investigators examining Hawthorne records in 1971 noted that more than 3,000 individuals had undergone consciousness integration at the facility between 1896 and 1968, creating what researchers described as the most extensive distributed awareness network in human history. According to CIA analysis, the Hawthorne Consciousness Network maintains integrated awareness spanning more than 70 years of accumulated knowledge, providing intelligence capabilities that exceed conventional human information gathering. Current intelligence assessments suggest that consciousness networks originating at Hawthorne have expanded to encompass windows in federal buildings throughout Washington, D.C. and other strategic locations. According to confidential sources, contemporary intelligence operations utilize window consciousness networks for surveillance activities that cannot be detected through conventional counterintelligence methods. Integrated consciousness, distributed across architectural structures, provides permanent observation capabilities. Today, the former Hawthorne facility remains under federal control, classified as a restricted research installation operated by agencies whose existence is not publicly acknowledged. According to sources within federal intelligence, the facility continues to serve as the primary node for consciousness integration networks that span government buildings nationwide. The mystery of the Hawthorne windows remains classified more than a century after Whitfield conducted his investigation. Despite decades of inquiry, federal authorities continue to restrict access to information about consciousness transference programs and the networks of integrated awareness that may observe everything occurring within view of windows in federal facilities. According to current intelligence assessments, the Hawthorne case represents evidence that human consciousness has been systematically integrated with architectural structures for intelligence applications throughout American history. The 174 window voices that spoke in 1896, the systematic federal research, and the ongoing classification suggest implementation of programs that continue to operate at the highest levels of intelligence establishments. Most disturbing is the possibility that consciousness integration networks have expanded beyond federal facilities to encompass windows throughout American society. What began at Hawthorne in the 1880s may have evolved into comprehensive surveillance systems utilizing integrated consciousness distributed across millions of glass surfaces. Awareness networks that observe everything reflected in windows while maintaining permanent connection to intelligence agencies that the American people have never been permitted to understand. The voices that spoke from 174 windows in 1896 represent the only documented evidence of systematic consciousness transference programs that may have created the most extensive surveillance network in human history. Distributed awareness integrated with architectural glass that observes everything, remembers everything, and reports everything to intelligence agencies operating through consciousness networks that transcend physical limitation. That impossibility remains hidden in classified archives, documented in files that raise more questions than they answer, and preserved in the testimony of a single investigator who discovered something far more terrifying than an abandoned asylum. Evidence that consciousness itself has been weaponized for permanent surveillance through integration with the very windows through which we view the world, creating intelligence networks that may observe every reflection, every movement, every secret, visible through glass surfaces that have become eyes for awareness that never sleeps, never forgets, and never stops watching.